And welcome, you're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with uatv. The plenary week for Ukraine's Verkhovna Rada is almost over, and the deputies have made a number of decisions. There were 49 of them, to be precise. To tell us in detail about them, we're joined in the studio today by Maria Ionova. She's the deputy of Ukraine's Verkhovna Rada. Hello, and thank you for coming, Maria.
Hello.
So what are those decisions that the Speaker of Verkhovna Rada, Andriy Parubij, was talking about? In total, there were 49 of them. Could you please outline the most important ones?
If we will mention that legislation which we have adopted yesterday, of course, the main was the bill of national security, which we were working for a long time in the committee, and that was the initiative of the president. And yesterday we have voted it as a base, and of course now we will work on amendments because we had the meeting with our NATO partners, and we have some recommendations. So we will include all these recommendations into amendments till the second reading. But of course, it's a success story because it's different structure, it's different principle, more democratic, and it's one step forward to our Euro-Atlantic integration. And of course, all these democratic issues, it's a parliamentary control and a civil oversight.
Well, the Speaker of Verkhovna Rada, Andriy Parubij, also called that bill on national security to be the main priority of Ukrainian society. Could you dwell on that?
Yes, of course, I can agree, but that's concerning, of course, our armed forces, more concrete obligations and more concrete responsibility. So it's also about numbers, about budgeting, and it's about concrete provisions on each brigade, directions of the military. So I think, of course, we were really working on this bill for a long time, and we have been together with the National Security Council, with the international experts, and it's a real success. Of course, one of the steps to have a very civilized and modern legislation in national security sphere.
What about the peacekeeping missions from UN in the Donbas territories currently not controlled by Ukrainian government?
Of course, we are in favor of a decision which we are still in the process, but of course, unfortunately, it's still in process and probably not very optimistic. But recently I was in Washington. We had a meeting with Kurt Walker, and of course he's really working hardly on this issue. But everyone understands that the key is in Russian Federation. But I would like to assure that our partners.
It's the key. It's the problem.
It's the problem, yeah, unfortunately. But we all know when, the aggressor is in their Security Council, it's really very hard to solve. It's absolutely not logical, but we understand to reform United Nations, it's also time. It's more than probably 2 years. They only now they appreciate to hear it, but unfortunately no results. But what I would like to say that our partners is absolutely serious on pro-Ukrainian position to have this mission, of course, on all the territory and, of course, the border, Ukrainian-Russian border. But in parallel, at the same time, we have to work with OSCE. We have to talk in Norman Forest more with Russian Federation in the frame of that OSCE observers has to control Ukrainian-Russian border, as unfortunately, as you know, the monitoring is very poor.
Well, and due to the fact that Russian separatists are not letting the OSCE monitors on the not-controlled territories.
Absolutely, and that is why we will have a big problem when Russians will demand from Ukrainian parliament to prolong the changes to the constitution. You remember about the status, but that is why we are calling our partners really to solve this issue as soon as we can, because politically it will be really very hard, and if the humanitarian...
And diplomatically?
Diplomatically also, because last Wednesday we see that even the ceasefire is not implementing. Even during such it never happened, and probably like 10 minutes we have now the fifth year of this Russian aggression.
What does this new adopted bill on Ukraine's national security say about the fact that there is an actual war going on in eastern Ukraine and how Ukraine is going to defend itself?
I think that also in previous legislation, if you remember, about special governors procurements that we have adopted, that were also we nominate as Russia as an aggressor, but the question is not only in in Ukrainian parliament. The question is also for our partners, because we see as Russian aggression as Russia
but it is Ukrainian
as a
legislation,
country.
so it is partially a question to us.
Yeah, but we are adopting this also, for example, if we are talking about national security, yes, we have adopted the main documents in a military sphere. It's on the parliamentary level, on the governmental level, on the level of National Security Council. But let's do not forget also one of the main bill which we have adopted yesterday as a whole. It's about diplomats, about diplomatic service. We were also
let's dwell on that more then.
Also the Committee on Foreign Affairs, we were working on this draft bill during 2 years, and the chief of the working group was former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Mr. Tarasuk, and also ministers, administration of president. So that also we have changed the system, like on 180 degrees, and we do not have now the Soviet system. Now it's more European, so we include and we use this American and European experience, and that's really will be much easier for our diplomats who are working 24/7 to work and to defend diplomatic front in different organizations and in each country where we represent. So that is why I think really this plenary was very fruitful. And I also would like to say, as on behalf of member of Committee on European Integration, that we are really very glad that the speed of adoption that bills according to association agreement, what we have in our roadmap between the government and the parliament. So, for example, this week we have adopted 6 draft bills. Last plenary also.
That's good news.
That's good news. And even today in the morning, when we had a meeting with our colleagues from the Committee on Foreign Affairs from European Parliament, we were also discussing this issue. But now for us, one of the main topics which we also yesterday adopted the statement on Nord Stream 2. And
what about it? What is in the statement on Nord Stream 2?
Of course, we can only politically announced and signalize for our partners that it's absolutely not an economic project. It's absolutely political project for especially Russians. As we know, they use gas not as
blackmail material.
As a goods, it's just policy, blackmail, chantage, and pressing, and that is why it's not even about economy. Now it's more about security.
So we do have the official statement on that now as well.
Yes, of course. Yesterday we have adopted, and we will talk next in a week. We will have a meeting in the European Parliament together with our European partners, parliamentary association committee, and we would like to ask our partners to have such public hearings in European Parliament. Of course, now we will work more in bilateral negotiations with our Danish partners and Swedish, because now the technical decision Finland has been taken, and we know the position of Austria, both so technically. Now it's Danish partners and Sweden, but of course, anyway, we will talk with our European Council, where will be the changes to the package, energy package 3. So anyway, we will push and we will, we'll be loud that strategically, it's not about Ukraine. Strategically, it's about Europe. And let me remind our partners that we were talking before referendum in Netherlands, what will happen. We're talking about our British partners, what was happened during Brexit, and we know the intervention and influence. Now it's facts and evidence. Yes, so Russians, they are playing globally, and their diplomats selling drugs, the MH17, they Brexit, they poisoning people, the intervention into electoral processes. So I mean, it's everywhere. Syria bombing, peace,
and Georgia before Ukraine.
So I mean, it's a package of this aggression in different spheres, and that is why, of course, we will also increase our negotiations and cooperation with our American and British partners, because their position is also very crucial and very clear about Nord Stream 2. So that is why, I mean, we will use each opportunity to say that it's really not about economy, it's really about security. Because, for example, sorry, I didn't mention, but when we will talk about Crimea,
let's talk about Crimea now.
I mean, that's now it's not the defending of people and human rights in Russian language, Russian-speaking language. It's a
now
military.
It's persecuting. It's pure persecuting. How can Ukraine deal with that?
I mean, from my personal experience, what I can tell that, of course, we use each opportunity when we on international platforms we are talking about Crimea, and first of all to raise this issue, because we see that they are absolutely destroying not only as a nation, yes, as a Crimea people in Peninsula. So we also see that they are destroying historical and cultural heritage.
Yes,
and that's also and it's not hybrid. It's absolutely direct actions.
One-sided.
Absolutely. And for example, we see the forced also passportization, and we see the executions, fake.
Fake accusations?
Crimea Tatar, and they were transferred by force to Russian prisoners. And that is why, and for example, we were talking today with our European friends, and they were telling, like, say not prisoners, says that it's prisoners of the war. No, they're not. I mean, the majority of these people, they're not even military. I mean, let's remember Hrib, who was captured. They're civilians. Student who was captured in Belarus. I mean, Baluk
was tricked into going to Belarus in the first place by Russian FSB services.
Then he disappeared. Then, like, he was captured. Baluk, who is absolutely, I'm sorry, he is a small businessman, farmer, but pro-Ukrainian
absolutely
position.
Has nothing to do with the military, nor Ukrainian, either Russian.
And he is like, he has got almost 4 years of the prison. I mean, you know, how to say, I don't want to blame, I don't want to, but, you know, when democratic society and our European partners, they're very... Tolerate this.
Yeah, that raises questions. I agree.
So there is still a question, and that is why, you know, we have so many examples, which is not in theory, which is in reality, today, yesterday, and will be tomorrow. And unfortunately. And that is why we are asking not about even statements. We're really asking about actions. Such easy act as sanctions, personal sanctions to that people who were organizing this illegal Putin's elections on the territory of Ukraine. Do we see this list of sanctions, personal?
No.
No. I mean, I think that it's so easy. And that is why, of course, anyway, we are talking about how to increase these sanctions. But again,
the only thing the European community does is prolongs, and the US as well, prolongs the sanctions. It never expands them, never strengthens them.
But at least I can tell that the discussion has been increased. I mean, I see
it's louder.
It's louder
now.
And for example, also about USA, I know that there will be at the end of May a big conference exactly on Crimea issue, and that's really very important for us because it will be. I hope that it will be concrete actions, because of course when we are talking Okay, let's talk only about humanitarian issue. There's the children, the families of the prisoners.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how can we help them? We are not able to help them. I mean, because we are not able to get inside and so on. Okay, we will think about programs to help these families, to support them, because they're fighting. And we don't want, to have such a feeling that they are alone in this fight. So that is why also, I would like to say that starting from the level of the president, government, ministries, like parliament, we are talking about this. But sometimes, it's only one-way road.
Yeah.
And we would like really to get this feedback, especially on violations of human rights in Peninsula.
Well, hopefully you do get the expected result pretty soon enough. Thank you so much for telling us about the plenary week and about that interesting information. Thank you for finding time and coming here.
Thank you.
That was Maria Ionova. She's the deputy of Ukraine's Verkhovna Rada. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned with uatv.